Welcome, everyone, to Renegade Con Virtual. For the Create a Card Workshop, I am Matt Holland. I'm here with Matt Hyra, the designer of the Vampire Rivals card game, and B. Dave Walters himself, content creator, writer, and known as Victor Temple in the LA Knights online campaign or the Twitch campaign. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Thank
you guys having a good time so far with Renegade Con?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic time. I will just say that my Zoom window won't let me move it, and it's parked right over Chad. So, Chad, if I don't say anything, I'm not ignoring you there. It won't let me move.
Excellent. Well, everyone, if you are here to help us create a actual card for the game for Victor Temple, Dave's character in LA Knights. I don't know who here watches the show, watches that and knows about this campaign, maybe has seen that character in action, other than Dave. Anybody in chat a fan?
Hopefully, surely the family is coming through right now to represent for the undisputed Baron of the Valley, but that's all right. He's going to be able to make his presence known in the streets of San Francisco, which is if those of you that are OG fans, you might recall Victor was in San Francisco for that app nonsense that happened that had to be quietly brushed under the rug. So, he might already know some people up there. It makes sense that he's going to cross over.
That's awesome. And now, to be clear, we are going to create an actual card for the game that will show up in the game, at some point in the future here. So we need your input. Matt designs a lot of cards. That gets tiring. Some fresh blood, some fresh ideas, I think we can use to get some audience participation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to just get a feel for what the players want in the game. This is it's an expandable card game, so it expands with the ebb and flow of how you like to play. So this is your very first chance to tell us how you like a Rivals game, how you want a Rivals game to go.
That's really cool. We're going to go through all the stats. We're going to have some input on the disciplines and the ability for the character. We're going to be using Twitch polls to do that. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or something, jump onto Twitch if you're able. If you're on Twitch, just keep an eye out. Polls will pop up on your screen throughout the stream. We'll use your input to help influence the card design. I will note this card, when we finish, will be still subject to playtesting and, of course, final approval. We will try to keep things, close to what everybody came up with and what we came up with on the stream. But of course, if we find that card is completely broken in the future, things can change. Dave doesn't want that to happen. He's in favor of the...
I'm just saying, make me proud, Chad. When the votes come up here, make me proud. I'm just saying, I feel like it would be ideal if we end up with a nerf-worthy Baron Victor Temple card when the dust settles here.
Dave, do us a favor. Tell us a little bit about Victor. So those of us who have not seen LA Knights, who is he? Maybe what is some of his history or some of the things that he is most known for?
First of all, I don't blame anybody who's yet to see LA by Night, because that just means there's time now for you to enjoy our grand adventure. Seasons 1 through 4 up on YouTube. The first 3 seasons are on Geek and Sundry YouTube. Season 4 is on the World of Darkness YouTube. Baron Victor Temple, undisputed Baron of the Valley, Clan Ventru, of course, Clan of Kings. Victor is a nightclub owner. He is a record mogul. He was kind of having a good time, enjoying his own life, and got swept up in a lot of politics and shenanigans, lots of which was outside of his control. His specialty is dominate. He has very high ranks in dominate and is quite good at it, and will use it indiscriminately is a strong word, but I don't know what's one step shy of indiscriminately. Discriminately, I suppose.
Semi-discriminately?
Semi-discriminately. He is a very large gold-plated hunter firearm that is a Ralphus weapon that is some sort of prototype weapon that you can't usually fire or can't usually find, that fires explosive rounds, which has come in handy because he's not particularly very fighty himself. And all things being equal, is just trying to keep all of his friends and family and coterie members' heads on the shoulders.
Nice.
Sounds good.
So not a minor player in the LA scene, obviously.
You know, help negotiate the truce between the Camarilla and the Anarchs. That is kind of like giving LA a veneer of uneasy peace right now, which will last as long as it lasts. You know, but right now we don't have to worry about the doors to our havens being nailed shut and set on fire. Probably.
Awesome. Hyra,
Yeah.
what sort of general let's talk about the three main physical, social, and mental stats.
Or just go down the line, top to bottom, right? So yeah.
Do we want to do blood potency after we've sort of figured out the other stuff to maybe cost it appropriately, or is it blood potency come more from the character and then we do everything else within that?
Yeah, we kind of want to establish the age of the character,
Okay.
the you know how potent is their blood? You know, are they a newbie? Are they a leader among the among the Ventru? Things like that. That will the cost will inform a lot of the attributes and disciplines. So that might be a good place to start. So even though it's kind of boring, it will help us achieve the other items first. Yeah.
What sort of range blood potency does it just go up to 6? Can it go above that even? Is that like something that's just unheard of for a
Yeah, so far we do not have any 7 blood potency characters. Those would be definite like 250-year-old types
Sure.
who have been around and seen it all. It doesn't mean we can't go there, but yeah, I guess that's something to talk about. Like, should Victor Temple be like the oldest and most powerful vampire on the West Coast in Rivals?
I think
In the
we
Rivals
have one
story?
person who obviously thinks that's the case.
No,
You
no,
can tell,
no,
but
no,
I don't
no.
know if that's
To be fair, eventually, yes. Currently,
Eventually.
I would not say Victor is the oldest player. He knows some Ventrue that are older than him.
sure.
So let's maybe just kind of talk through, Victor's story a little bit. Like, this is a character you've played for a little while, and I
Yes.
suspect you're gonna play it for another couple years, perhaps, on and off.
One
6
would
seasons
hope.
in a movie.
You know, 6
Yeah,
seasons in a movie, exactly. One would hope.
right. So in that sense, we might not want to start you out at a 7, like at the
Sure.
pinnacle of your power, right? I could see that. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, we can start wherever you want, but I think blood potency is a good place to go.
Well,
Yeah, let's start with the blood
Yeah.
potency. I'm going to throw up a poll so we can get some audience input while we talk through sort of the different values that it could be. We'll put it up for 3 minutes. People can put their votes in, and we'll take a look at what you guys think, and then of course the discussion here with Hyra and Dave to
Yeah,
see what is going
And are you
on.
giving them a range? Like, I
I
guess
put
you
2
probably
through
want to go
6.
two through 6. Yeah, that's good. 2
if
through
I
6.
could ask a question here, is
Mhm.
this blood potency rating sheerly age, or is this discipline's power, or does this, because the social influence and some of the other things are going to be represented by some of the other stats, correct? This is like raw power.
This is age and raw power. The blood potency will influence your attributes and
Mhm.
also your disciplines. So we can modify things after the poll if we
Right.
discover some things about the character. But this will give us a good starting position.
I know the number. I think I'm going to leave it to the people. I trust
We
y'all.
will
I
we will
trust you,
give
family.
we will allow you a vote and see if that makes a
There we go.
difference.
Fair.
Dave, how
Yeah.
old is Victor? How old is he
Yeah,
actually?
how old? When was he
Uh,
born? What year?
Victor, okay, so funny story about this that I've shared with the family before. Victor was supposed to be exactly my age, and then in the very first episode when we were talking, I got tongue-tied and I said I'm nearly 60 when I meant I'm nearly 50. So Victor ended up being much older than I am. So I'd say he was born in the mid 60s.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we can kind of color that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Given other vampires in the game, Hyra,
Mhm.
age of 60, is that fairly average? Is that on the high end for the vampires that exist in the game so far? What's that sort of someone like Hydra or gosh, I'm
Randolph
blanking on the other
Mars.
bosses' names.
Yeah, like Randolph Mars, Li Zhu.
Yes.
Yeah, Randolph and Li Zhu are supposed to be kind of in the a little older, like 60, 70 like that.
Sure.
Now age doesn't always translate to power. Like the governor, the
Certainly.
Malkavian leader, he's certainly 100 years old and looks like he's 70, but he's
Yeah.
a 5, right? So it's not, age isn't the ultimate determiner. It's not just because you're old means you're powerful. You could be living in a log cabin and feeding off of, crickets, drinking cricket
Sure.
blood, and you're not gonna be very powerful. You really need to get out there and taste some good old fashioned human blood to do it. So
Yeah. And I'm guessing the type of human blood can affect that too. Like, is that a
right,
factor as well?
it can be. Now in Rivals, there are some there's some clans, and there's also some age of vampire where when you get to a certain age, a certain potency, you're not satisfied with just normal blood. Sometimes you even need to feed on vampiric blood because you're so old. So, but we don't really get into it that deep. We leave that for the role-playing game. You can get a whole new experience and a great vampire experience playing that, but we don't dive down that deep because we try to keep everything into that little text box on the card, right?
Yep.
So
Cool.
we
Well,
may
let's see. I've
explore we
got
might
some results.
explore issues of the blood in the future, but we wanted to keep it concise to start out.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, we had a full 50% of the chat vote for, which is still, I think, a respectable number. Not off the charts or anything. And I think,
Mhm.
like like Dave, I'm getting you mixed up with your character. Like Dave said, leaves room to grow for him in the future as he, some of his plans come to fruition or things like that. Thoughts?
I voted 5.
5 was second place with 36%.
5 is second place. I think a Dave vote is worth 1.1, kind of thing, something like that. I would say, so let's just ask a little bit about Victor. Do you see Victor leading a coterie, like being the leader responsible for a coterie of 3 or 4 vampires, or are you typically a lieutenant to a leader?
Oh no, he not only does he lead his coterie, he speaks for all the anarchs in Los Angeles currently. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I said what I said, Chad. Some of y'all are like, I'm like, I said what I said, Chad. It's down to me and Rodriguez. That's it. We're trying to keep the city standing. So yeah, he is. I think, and that's part of what his narrative arc has been, is
Mhm.
his power and influence very much outmatches his age, which is part of the reason why he's constantly at odds with the Camarilla, because his enemies are centuries old.
Sure.
And they're like, you're a baby, and he's like, but I'm not though, and here I am. So yeah, he definitely has extensive influence on the anarchs of Los Angeles, and even extending outwards to the anarch movement nationally.
Okay. Yeah, based on
Given that,
it's that sounds a little bit more like a 5.
sure.
It is certainly possible to be a leader at 4 blood potency, but you're a little underpowered compared to other leaders, and I don't think Victor would shy away from a boardroom meeting of the Primogen, right?
Yeah.
So
No.
and we
Yeah.
can adjust this later on, right? Once we
Let's
get
go with
everything else
5 for
done, we can
now.
adjust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can go for 5, and if we want to adjust that later, we can. But that gives us a real good starting point.
And I see chat debating it in chat. I do, but six is strong. I mean, six is a bit much. I mean, he's very good at dominate, but again, he's constantly outmatched by his adversaries. Like there's stronger kindred around all the time. So I
Sure.
think five is a good number.
Okay,
Awesome.
cool.
We're going to go down then. What's
Yeah.
you said Victor's not really he's not a hand-to-hand fighter. He's got that big gun.
Yep.
Mhm.
So this was a part of his story originally, is his physical, his dexterity is his dump stat, because his backstory was he used to play professional basketball and blew his knee out, which is why he was retired. And originally my concept for Victor, he was supposed to walk with a cane, so that when he like started doing his soaring leap thing. It was like Yoda in episode 2, where it's all like, "Oh, I'm so slow. Nah, I'm all over you." And
Yeah.
again, episode 1, a lot of nerves. People were watching, kind of didn't mention the cane thing. So no, he is not a very physical fighter. However, he does have ranks and fortitude, where he is still physically very durable.
Sure.
He can take hits much better than he can give them. I'll put it like that.
And interestingly, in Rivals, Hyra, the whole your stat is both your attack power and your sort of defensive power. So you have to kind of balance that that aspect of it.
Right. Okay, so we've talked physical, not really physically adept. Let's talk social. Like what how social, how well does Victor do in social conflict?
That's his jam. He's talked himself and his people kind of out of imminent death a few times now.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, that's his words are his weapons. Especially between his use of presence and dominate to mess with people's attention and get them to do what he wants. Like that's definitely his strong suit. Is lay there.
Real quick, I'm going to put up a poll for physical skill for everybody, just so you guys can weigh in chat while we move on and talk about social.
Well,
do you want to talk through them all first?
Let's go through all of them, and then we'll kind of poll. Can you make live polls, right? So
yeah, I'm making them as we go. So.
Yeah, why don't okay, so social sounds like social guy can definitely talk his way in and out of trouble.
Yes.
Let's talk mental. How well does he do with using his dominate? How well is he able to
I feel like Dave's mentioned dominate a lot, and those two seem pretty linked to me.
It definitely. Well, a quick question though. How high did the numbers go on this scale? Is this also a scale of 7, 5, 3?
No,
like, what's this,
it would be 0, 1, or 2. Although I should say 3 is a possibility. We have not done it yet. We may or may not want to do it here.
Sure.
So yeah.
Sure.
I guess you could put that up as a poll just to keep people, who are here. We love it that you're here. We want to keep them engaged. How about put up a poll of should we explore a 3 stat? Yes or no?
I mean, Victor is famous.
And so this would then we would, so it's just, should we explore that, or should we not?
Even have it on the table.
Yeah. So while people are doing that, we can talk about the mental stat. How well does he protect his mind, and how well is he able to influence the minds of others?
So this is, well, again, even though and this is something special for you guys tuning in here, because we're very tight-lipped about what's on our actual character sheets.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we don't really talk about it too much, but I will say I have invested significant resources into Victor's mental defenses, because his main adversary, the prince, as he has said multiple times, Vannevar Thomas is everything he is and 4 times older. So being able to, it's almost how, Batman's got a plan to stop the entire Justice League. It's like Victor's got counter contingencies for all the things he can do, because he knows the prince can do them all better. So his mental defenses are significant, but I will definitely say I've put the most resources into dominate first, presence second, fortitude third, for certain, in terms of the things he can do.
You talk about his mental defenses. What about, going on the offense? Where does he?
That is his main thing. Like, that's kind of what he's managed to dominate werewolves to stop them from killing him. He's managed to dominate his own coterie it's sometimes to get them to not do something suicidal. That's definitely his specialization. And I will say, in terms of the way that I realize the card game functions mechanically much differently than the tabletop game, but they exist in a similar universe, is he has as many ranks and dominate as it's possible to get. And he's maxed that out. I'll put it like that.
Okay. Yep. It seems to me, Hyra, tell me if I'm off base, but we definitely need to have something in social and something in mental.
Mental,
Like,
yeah.
I don't think either of those sound like a 0. Chat, like, let us know in chat if anybody disagrees, but
I
that kind
don't,
of feels
yeah, just looking
appropriate.
at it, I think people are thinking that social and mental where we need to be. So let's leave it up to Dave. Do you want the viewers to decide if you're more social or mental, or do you want to just put in do you want some veto power at the end of the poll?
Well, this is a collaborative art. So actually, I will ask you which way it needs to be weighted, in the sense that I would say the character exists in two primary ways that on a practical level overlap, but on a mechanical level are distinct. Yes, he very much is a very public mouthpiece, but considering this is a game ultimately of combat, if you mess with him, you're going to get dominated. So I would say probably weight the dominate more than the social, I would think. Even though those
Okay.
things are both core to the character, I think when the dust settles, probably that's how it would go, I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did get our results on the 3 stat. Just a very narrow majority said they are interested in exploring a 3 stat. Very close. So in fact, only 1 vote separating the two.
Yeah.
However, I feel like with the need to have some stats in both those areas, it's going to be tough to have like one of them at 3, one of them
Right.
at 2. That feels very, very powerful in game, no?
Yeah, we can take this poll into consideration in the future. It might not be correct for Victor because he's not a one trick, pony.
Yeah.
But we can, if it seems
Two-trick
like
pony.
people, right? He's not a one trick pony. So we can explore it in the future. But it sounds like we need some social and mental to really make the character in Victor's image. So
Yeah.
why don't we just put up a poll?
Yep.
I think I'm seeing a lot of chatter here that people are saying 0 physical. So why don't we put up a poll between 2 social or 2 mental? Okay, and then the other one would probably be a 1 in that case. So why don't we try that as a poll? We've heard Dave's mention that dominate and mental is kind of what he's thinking, but we want to hear the input as well.
I have faith in the community.
Haha.
These are a little bit
All right.
shorter, 2-minute polls going up.
Mhm.
If you can choose if you want to have the 2 stat as social or mental. So weigh in and let us know what you think.
Yeah, it's such an interesting, even like mental puzzle to unravel as you guys are asking me about it, because I'm like, he talked his way into being Baron, but
Yeah, so you didn't know this was going to be This Is Your Life.
It's
right?
true. It's true. This is your life, Masquerade edition, where I have to like mass dominate everyone to get them to forget that we talked about any of this when it was over.
Yep.
You know what? I'm going, ooh, I was like, am I even gonna vote on this? Yo, I really don't know. What
You don't even know which way you'd vote necessarily, it sounds like.
Yeah. Nope.
I
nope,
know
I'm
that
not
a
gonna-
lot of I know
No,
a lot of
please.
people have already answered, but for those who haven't, let me just talk a little bit about some of the design process. So looking at Victor as a 5-cost venture right now, we can compare him to the other 5-cost ventures out there, which are Stevie Osborne and Bruno Wagner. Okay.
Bruno, a fan favorite.
Bruno is a fan favorite. So Stevie is a 5-cost, 2 physical, 0 social, 1 mental. Bruno is a 0 physical, 2 social, 1 mental. So right there, in order to kind of get a little bit of differentiation between the 5-cost ventures, that 2 mental is looking pretty good to me. So just so that there's a good variety of 5-cost venture to choose from. So.
And tell me, Matt, you could also sort of, if you're lower on the social, you're saying 2 mental would be what you're
2
thinking just
mental
from a
would
design
be,
perspective to
if I
give
was
that spread.
if I was designing this at home right now, I would look at 2 mental because none of the 5 and 6 cost venture have 2 mental.
Okay, that's cool. That's a really good insight.
And getting
from
the
someone who knows the card
differentiation
pool better.
between characters creates those moments where you get to make decisions, and we like to see that. So
Cool. Well, let's see what the results are. Now, again, a 1 vote spread in favor of social.
Okay, well, Dave, you have a 1.1 vote over there. What do you think?
I'm
Or did you already vote?
I'm going with you, Hyra. I'm going with you. I think you're right. I think it'd be good to differentiate the Baron from the other Ventru, both on a practical level and on a mechanical level, because I would want anyone playing my beloved Clan of Kings to have a good reason to be able to field, multiple ones
Fair
of
enough.
us and have a toolbox.
Cool. So Dave's going to put his finger on the scale a little bit
Little bit.
and push us in favor of 2 mental.
Yeah,
what-
two mental, 1 social, 0 physical.
Hey,
and
that's what
those are the stats. A 5 and 6 cost vampires get 3 stats. So we are doing
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, that's something for people who may not even seen the game yet. So
just want y'all to know that's how we blue bloods do things. Just a little bit. Well, just like when we get that. Oh, just for the record, those of you that have tuned in for this, and thank you for joining us on this lovely Saturday, who have not had a chance to see the Rivals card game yet. It's fantastic, and we did a playthrough right when it first launched with Xander and Erica and
Outstar.
Outstar, yes, and I played, and it
Yeah.
was fake. It's a fantastic set. The cards are absolutely beautiful, and it very much captures the experience of playing Vampire in a completely different way, which I highly recommend. So pick up your set; it's gorgeous.
And if you have not played it, I will point out that this weekend it's available to play on Tabletopia for free anytime.
Hey.
It'll actually go forward from this for a couple weeks, as we are going to run a free league. Anybody who's looking to get into the game, you can play 1 game a week against a random opponent, and you can possibly win some prizes and just get polished up. So when the physical game arrives, you're ready to get out there and compete.
I will tell you there was, and I can point to the exact moment this game won my heart, because as I was playing my beloved Clan Ventru, because again, I am nothing if not consistent, family. There is a card, one of the attack cards is called Know Your Place. And it's just a picture of a dude just like holding his hand up for you to stop.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, yes, we're good here. Thank you. Perfect.
Yep. Nope, you can't come in the nightclub.
You can't. No. Like,
That's
look at
the ultimate.
Yeah. Look at those shoes. What are those? No.
Yep.
All
right.
Should we talk disciplines? Sorry, Hyra. Should we talk disciplines or ability?
It can be a chicken and egg type of thing. Sometimes you get inspired, by some particular mechanic you want in the game. So you might come up with the ability first and then find disciplines that go well with that. But we've already heard Dave mention some disciplines.
Yeah.
So I think that might be better. And then that will also allow us to focus the polls a little bit better instead of having it so wide open. So I think we want to talk about some disciplines right now. Now, we created a blank template so that we could put anything in here. Now, a 5-cost vampire has 2 disciplines, okay? While a 6-cost has 3. So that's the difference for those at home. So yeah, we're going to be looking at 2 disciplines right now. We could end up putting Victor up to a 6 at some point. We don't know, but for right now, 2 disciplines.
Cross those fingers.
So we've heard a few things about Dominate, but we've heard that Presence and Fortitude are not unknown to him. So we have, let's just figure out 2 disciplines right now. I guess, why don't we just try a poll of Dominate, Fortitude, Presence, and see what comes up with, see what the fans like.
Yeah, I can actually do. Let's do first pick for people.
Okay. So I have a question.
Yeah, go.
As we're conceptualizing the abilities here, do we have any? Do any of the current characters have an ability that would not be massively destabilizing, that allows you to drive another one of the vampire cards off the board? Because that's really what Victor does. He's like, leave. So when he comes, if you play him, and he basically unsummons another player's vampire.
Wow. Okay. Well, we might, we might we will try to unlock any sort of text box that would be interesting. So
Another thing I was going to point out, Matt, and tell me if this is totally off base, but we can sort of pay homage to one of these things that Victor's known for in his ability too. It's not purely through the disciplines, correct?
Right. Correct. Yeah. I mean,
I saw somebody asked about is double dominate even possible? I don't know if it is, but we could have it could be. Okay, cool. Yeah. But you could also have a dominate and fortitude, for example, but then some kind of power. I don't know what is going on with my green screen. Some kind of power that triggers off of the fact that he has dominate or emphasizes that in some way.
You know what? That's the La Sombra coming to interfere with this process. Jasper, leave him alone.
That is La Sombra. You're right. You have a shadow friend about to dominate you. So a lot of times, instead of referencing someone's discipline in their own ability, which seems like, you don't need to because it's already there, a lot of times we'll just make the ability kind of feel like dominate, without referencing dominate.
Sure.
So we'll explore that a little bit here in a minute. And it looks like, are these?
I saw someone in the chat.
Also, 3-minute polls. I think 2 minutes probably good enough. So
I can bump it down for the next one. I saw someone in the chat talking about how you could also have it. I don't know if this is relevant to Victor, but a vampire could have an ability that interacts with mortals from the city deck and lets him, influence them in some way. If that was a vampire that did more dominating of mortals instead of other vampires. Again, not necessarily Victor, it sounds like, but
I would say
idea.
There's 3 things that Victor does pretty consistently, and this is not talking yet about how they figure into the game practically, but just when I think about my toolbox of things that I go to a lot, is cloud memory, making people forget what happened.
This is not like Google Drive; it's something else, correct?
Yeah, just something else. The opposite, literally the opposite of that, actually. Yeah, that uses his gun. Because I joke that the gun fires plot bullets. That's why I don't use it often. It's the golden gun from James Bond, so you don't I wave it around a lot, but I don't use it indiscriminately. And the third thing is his social stuff, especially with the live streaming and using the public platform to manipulate events, basically. Well, I guess. See, that's the challenge. Especially because I'm wondering in a game like this that he mesmerizes people even more than the live streaming. So I think those are probably the 3 things to get across: the cloud memory, you need to forget about this; the gun, and the command mesmerism. Which usually the thing I do more often than not is I make people leave. That's what I did to the werewolf, because you're just hey, go home, and you take them off the board. Yeah, I'd say I would love to see us hit those 3 notes in some capacity, if possible. If not, awesome. We'll see what happens.
All right.
Well, we do have our results. Dominate the clear winner with 84% of votes. Presence with 16%, and nobody voting fortitude. So I feel like that makes it pretty easy to both please the audience and hit some of these notes for Victor.
Well, okay, why don't we plug in dominate at the top, and then let's see what that looks like real quick. So I think maybe, we everyone wanted dominate, that's true. I think the bigger question now is, okay, perfect. I think, and if Dave agrees, how about we put up the second discipline to a vote? And this can be the exact same poll, right? Should the second stat be dominate or presence or fortitude? Right?
I like that.
It's true.
So go ahead and put up the same poll, maybe a little less time on it.
Yep.
I apologize because I very much feel like the kid in that you hit me, no you didn't type thing. I'm all like, Victor's problem is he's just good at too many things. So
yeah.
DISC? Discipline? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dominate, fortitude, and
presence.
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 Yep. So this is voting on the second. We've already established the first.
Mhm.
Yeah, there isn't anybody with double dominate in
Tell us, Matt,
the.
why mechanically, what would a double dominate, for example, do for Victor? What maybe is there particular cards or effects that key off of having multiple dominates so far, or give people an idea of what would that
Yeah,
mean to have two?
yeah. There's at least one card that, or there's at least one card that will give you a nice a prestige drain on opponent. It's the card called Demand Obedience. It's a 4 BP requirement, 1 damage, mental attack. If this party has 2+ dominate, your foe loses 2 prestige. That is 10% of your prestige in one blow. So yeah, he would be able to demand obedience without any help. And that seems pretty reasonable based on what David said about the character so far.
Yeah, that's kind of
But
cool.
Love it.
I think it's still important to, maybe the players don't want someone who can demand obedience solo. They want, because that's a powerful card. They may not.
And
Players may
otherwise,
not want it.
you would need to have a leader that has dominate, and then play a second vampire, send them out together, and then be able to use that card. Having Victor as a leader would let you play that first turn, no other vampire needed.
Right, right.
That's dope. That's really dope.
Yeah, hitting somebody with a demand obedience early is going to slow down their recruiting pretty hard,
Sure.
So
Cool. We've got just a
sounds
couple
really cool.
seconds left, so I'm really curious
Yeah.
to see what people think. I like the fact that it is possible to have multiples of these disciplines. That's a cool design space to explore. Is it
Now,
right for Victor? I don't know.
I will say that Bruno Wagner is a dominate presence, so he could end up being the same. We don't have a dominate fortitude in the 5 cost, and we don't have a double dominate, obviously. But I think our poll is closing, and it's a tie.
It's a tie.
Oh my goodness!
And one lone viewer voted for fortitude. I feel like the people have kind of weighed in on their interest in fortitude for Victor, but dominating presence.
Fortitude has
Direct tie.
the same problem in this game that it's got in the stream. It's not sexy. Like, oh, you get hit. Oh, I lived through it though. Oh, okay.
Right.
You know, like-
That's true.
Yeah. Well, I think again, it's tough because the present stuff is still fairly indicative to who he is, but I have to weight it in terms of dominate, especially if no other card has double dominate, and he does use cloud memory and mesmerism, especially mass manipulation in equal measure. So I think if I have a vote, I would come down on double dominate.
It's a tie, so that certainly allows you to break that tie. So
and then Hyra, from your perspective, is it more appealing to explore a different design space, not duplicating the disciplines of Bruno, having a double dominate? Is that a thing you're concerned about for like power level at all, or is that something you're kind of curious to explore?
No, it's not a power level consideration. It's a coterie building consideration. If you've got someone who has unique disciplines at a certain cost, you want to be able to compare those versus other characters to head towards your strategy. So having different configurations allows you to tailor your coterie to your strategy. So it sounds like, Dave, you were saying a second dominate would be in order here. Is that correct?
It kind of felt like that to me.
I think so. It will make the character unique. Yeah.
Okay. Now, and as we're doing the text box, of course, things could change. We might want to. Do you have the ability to remove the third diamond, the blank, or no? It's fine if you can't.
Don't think
it's fine.
So, because I might break something else.
Yeah. It's fine. They're all tied together anyway. Okay, so double dominate. All right.
Do we want to?
Not sorry.
We're going to talk about ability here, the text box. Do we want to tease people with a sketch of the art here so they can ponder that while we talk about the ability?
Ooh.
Let's do that, and that might give us an opportunity to talk a little bit more about Victor, because we want to tailor his ability to some things
something he's
to some of
done,
his
something
history.
he's
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, but let's see the art. That might
So,
inspire us.
Dave, I don't think you've seen this yet, correct?
Haven't. No, I have not. I have not seen this. This is gonna be my first time seeing it as well.
Bam. There's our line art piece for
our sketch.
Victor Temple. And Desiree, this is Joyce.
I love it.
Maria, yep.
Joyce Merrier. I'm really bad at rolling my R's.
Love how incredibly extra that cloak is, and I would absolutely wear that both as Victor and in life.
Yeah. So
Victor.
Vic-
That's my. I'm gonna need you to forget all about this face there. I love it.
All right. So clearly, all eyes are on Victor in this picture. He's dominating the room, you could say.
Hey.
The big hands don't hurt.
So I think having done to dominate in his powers, I would like it if his ability were something more social, more reflective of his talkiness.
Okay. And that certainly
especially
seems
because
like
he doesn't have the gun in his hand in the art, so I don't need to mention the gun.
true. Yeah, and he is commanding a room, which is a little more social, but we can there's a lot of ways to go. So let's talk a little bit about the Ventru in Rivals right now, and then that might inspire us to try something new or bolster a current strategy. So the Ventru in the core deck that everyone's going to be getting in a couple months is they're pretty focused on titles, and they're also definitely good at generating more prestige for the clan, so that they can dominate the political scene as well. But they don't mind attacking once they get everything in order and have their titles lined up. They can get on the attack pretty well. So
well, you guys chat. Okay, never mind. My Photoshop had hard frozen, but it just fixed itself.
Oh, excellent.
Sorry.
So let's talk first about titles. You've been talking about Victor Temple being the Baron of the Valley, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Now, would you figure that Victor would be someone who would want to gain a title in Rivals pretty quickly in a game? Or would he be one who could sit back and maybe let other people get titles, and he can do the dirty work kind of thing? He can go scrap while other people make decisions. Or is he the decision maker?
For the sake of the meta, because all things being equal, in Rivals they are competing for Camarilla titles, correct? Like they're trying to become primogens and princes and whatnot up in this game, correct?
Yep, correct.
So the Baron would be there more as a representative of the Anarch Free State, but blue blood's gonna blue blood. So in that, I would say Victor is probably not trying to achieve a title in San Francisco. He's from LA, but he's there in the streets for the good of the clan.
Sure. I mean, he could be a titled character in LA visiting San Francisco. You don't have to think of yourself as competing with the Ventru of San Francisco. So essentially you're saying having a title is not central to his character, to his persona.
I mean, being the undisputed Baron of the Valley is highly central to his character.
But having a title, so say like in San Francisco, you're not if you're the Baron of the Valley, you're not necessarily looking to become the Baron of San Francisco too.
Or not. I'm not. I mean, never say never. But I'm not trying to become primogen or something. Obviously, how the game is played at the table is going to go where it goes, of course.
Certainly.
But again, on a meta level, Victor would not go to San Francisco trying to become primogen, if that makes sense. He would be trying to exert his influence over the city, though, and make connections and have people know who he is and things. That is something he'd be doing.
Dave, would that be sort of all done in the service of his coterie and his position in San Francisco? Like, getting allies or getting resources and things in San Francisco, in LA, getting things from San Francisco to help him in LA in some way?
Yeah, so again, on a meta level, the reason why California is special in the world of darkness is it is the anarch-free state. It is the one place where the Camarilla does not dominate unopposed for a lot of reasons. So on a meta level, Victor would be there to, one, bolster the anarch cause, but two, if he's got to put his finger on the scale, to still weigh it towards the Ventrue, because he's always going to believe his clan are, hopefully going to be more reasonable, even though that has not been borne out by experience. So trying to guide, I would see he'd almost be there more like a kingmaker, trying to guide the most reasonable and level-headed people into positions of power in San Francisco for the sake of like all kindred.
So maybe more of a kingmaker role. Would that be interesting?
Yeah.
Now,
so something with influence, possibly something that references influence conflicts.
Influence is how people gain titles. You can generate influence to kingmake other people into a title. You can also use influence for schemes, which will be things that affect the whole group. You're basically making rules, right? Things like that. Is that kind of how you're thinking?
That would be incredible, because I could very much see, from a storytelling perspective, more than just the mechanics, I very much could see Victor being like, hey, check this out, I will help you become Primogen, but when the fit hits the shan here, remember you and I are gonna cover each other,
remember what I did for you.
Remember what I did for you. Exactly. Yeah. Well, so definitely, I think that would definitely make sense for something he would be doing.
Well, perhaps we should take a poll here, because we haven't taken one in a minute.
Yeah.
How about, does this sound fair, Dave? If we could make a poll between a combat ability or an influence ability. Is that fair? Is he more about combat or more about influencing politics and titles? Is that a fair poll?
Yeah, we could put that poll. He fights when he has to. He doesn't run, but like he definitely tries to avoid the conflict.
It's more of a means to an end.
Yeah. But I'm interested to see what the people say here. Somebody wrote giving him a power to swap titles would work. That'd be dope.
That would be dope.
Yeah. Well, because even his ascent to becoming Baron, which, by the way, in a purely selfish in Ventrue Diva-esque sort of way, I assume there's not enough room at the top of the card to write his name as Baron Victor Temple, I assume.
Well, what I was just going to say about that is, Matt, could we do a bit of flavor text at the bottom that says Undisputed King or Undisputed Baron of the Valley?
As long as the text ability is like 3 lines or less, we can do it. So can we put up a poll, combat or influence? I think that's a good one. Because it sounds like titles aren't his jam. He's a little bit more into influence than titles.
That poll is up, so get those votes in, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I think that I've been thinking of this the whole stream. You've said Undisputed Baron of the Valley so many times. I feel like that would be a cool thing to throw at the bottom if we have room.
Yeah, we might stay on brand. I'm intrigued by this this thought you had of swapping titles. How often do you think that happens in the world of darkness, where someone who's a Primogen and someone else who's a seneschal would suddenly switch titles or move a title from one character to another?
Shout out to Anime Skippy. That was their idea in chat. I just think it's a great one. So I would put credit where credit's due. I would say a lot. Your star is always ascending and descending. That's the game. So getting played out of position like that is going to be very common, and is one of the win conditions of this game in particular. I think so. Often, I would say.
Matt, how would that interact mechanically with some of the stuff in the game? I'm just trying to think. Is it Ventrue that, like, at least the starter deck has the agenda? When you give a character a title, you get agenda points. Like I just want to check. Would something like swapping titles break something in that you could maybe use a title twice if you use it on one vampire and then use it with another? Or would it trigger the agenda that gives you?
I don't think I'm looking it up right now, and the title is called Base of Power. When a character in your coterie attaches a title, gain 2 agenda. So attaches. We would have to put a qualifier that swapping
Not an
does not
attachment.
count as attaching,
Yep.
which we had to we did that to Bong Chow Park. Her ability was to move mortals, to move retainers, and we had to quickly realize, oh yeah, we need to make sure that doesn't trigger attach effects.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've got our results. It is 100% influence.
100%
Like Dave
influence.
sort of implied, the people want to see him use that, the more the behind the scenes, not the trigger man ability.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Go ahead and just write in there influence where it says main text right now, just so we can keep that in our minds. But that sort of influence does, the power to influence someone, it's often nice to have 2 methods to do it. And currently he only has dominate. I'm wondering if dominate presence would actually feel a little bit more influential. That way you could influence people on 2 levels. Do you think we need to reevaluate that?
Could you also do something like, I don't know, like if this is enough of an ability or a thing that is very common, but like, gains presence when a certain condition is fulfilled?
It could happen. We have not explored that yet. That is something that we will do at some point. Conditional abilities. Yeah. So
I will say I'm leaning with Chad here, that like Chad's saying keep the 2 dominates, and I still like the 2 dominate because it differentiates him from the others.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, well, because especially I think the main ways that it is utilized, both in the cloud memory and in the mass manipulation, are a form of influence. Now, but let me be clear on this. When we talk about the ability, the ability is something that the card can do all the time, and the disciplines are something that you have to pay to activate. Is that how it works on a practical level?
No.
It's almost the opposite. The disciplines are there permanently, and sometimes your ability will require additional payment. It could be blood, it could be exhausting. Sometimes you might have an ability where you need a title in order to generate a particular effect on your character.
And some abilities are passive, like this character gets a plus additional damage, the first time it attacks in a party. That's a Toreador, right? Something like that. But yeah, the thing that really take away, Dave, is that the disciplines are always on, always there, and just completely passive.
Well, then in that case, if the mechanic that I was mentioning earlier, something about driving another card off the board, like if something like that were possible, like essentially like returning a card to the player's hand, or something like that, would be his ability.
Wow.
That feels very dangerous for a vampire. Matt, would it be reasonable or more manageable if he could interact with titles and either strip someone of a title or something like that? It's not quite changing a title, but something that, obviously you don't want this to be a free ability, but the ability to strip a title or interact with those in some way. That's sort of sending someone away. If someone was a seneschal and you say, no, you're no longer a seneschal, you're not taking them off the board completely, but you are taking a lot of power from them.
Yeah, because stripping a title could be very damaging.
Sure. Almost a negative play experience, possibly.
Yeah. And it sounded to me like Victor was more of a kingmaker, not a impeacher, shall we say,
Sure.
based on on today. Yeah, plus the base of power, as someone just mentioned in here, the base of power agenda would become a little strong if you could remove titles from your own characters, because that's one of the limiters, is each character can only have 1 title. You can't replace a title with another title, except for the prince, of course. So that would allow that player to kind of play 3 characters and keep removing titles, adding new titles, getting to agenda every time and winning without ever moving out into the streets to fight. So yeah.
Good point.
I'm definitely envisioning something that hinders another player's ability to do something, like it just stops them from doing it, the thing they wanted to do. Not necessarily move something to the discard pile, just have it essentially be a setback. Like, I spent the resources to do this thing. Oh, but you didn't, though.
Somebody in chat mentioned exhausting another player's vampire. Is that if you exhaust a vampire on your turn, that will ready at the start of that player's next turn, correct?
Yeah, the person you exhaust would ready at the start of their next turn. So yeah, possible. Now let me ask, because we're talking about influence for the moment. Let's talk about influence for the moment. Would you say that influence should be more about helping your fellow Ventru gain titles, or helping your schemes, your political schemes to happen? Are you more title focused or political scheming focused?
He'd be scheming focused.
Scheming focused. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, now if we want to talk about that exhaust thing, yeah, like you could have an ability of like exhausting Victor in order to exhaust another character that would prevent perhaps someone from using that character as a blocker during an attack. But Victor with 2 mental and double dominate seems like he would probably rather use some of that mental power and dominate to actually scrap in the streets, as opposed to paving the way for other people to scrap, right?
Can I make another character's vampire attack someone else that I choose?
Another character's vampire attacks someone that you choose.
Because you basically have like mentally commanded that guy to attack that guy.
Right.
Wilding Scum in chat had an interesting idea that I was just thinking of mentioning too. So I don't know that you said that exhausting someone on your turn, yeah, they could use them as a blocker, but it's not necessarily like that impactful. What about a relentless ability that lets you exhaust Victor to stop someone else's vampire from readying?
Right. So for those who haven't seen it, Relentless allows you to use a payment ability when it is not your own turn. Whenever you see something like Pay 1 Blood or Exhaust, that means during your own turn. If you see Relentless, you can do it during other players' turns. So, yeah, okay.
Thanks for tuning in, Flower Arena. Even if you don't fully know what we're talking about, we will try to explain game terms like that.
This is multi-tiered nerd words.
Hopefully some of you that are joining in haven't played this a lot, and some of this may sound a little bit foreign to you, but we will try to give context. If you ever have a question, ask it in the chat. We'll try to make sure we address it.
We're taking a character from a show about a game and bringing that character into another game about the first game.
Right.
Yeah, but I think anything that like stops the other people from doing the thing they intended, however that works out mechanically, where they very much are like, here's my thing, and it's like, no, like essentially to at the risk of crossing the streams, a counter spell of sorts. We do this. No, you don't.
And that's why Y-Wing Scum's suggestion kind of jumped out at me, because the player is sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going to use this vampire. And you're like, no, I'm going to exert Victor's ability to stop you from doing that this turn. And of course, you could do it every turn, but you're never going to get to use Victor for anything then. Or even, have an additional cost just exhausting.
We could use influence in different ways. The influence could be a resource used for exhausting, for instance. So now Dave did mention that typically that influence would be used to manipulate political schemes, but we also could use influence for other things. So why don't we start a poll and make it call it, so just I think the poll should be scheme based or negation based, let's call it. So so scheme versus negation. I think that might be an interesting poll, because it is possible to use influence as a payment for some kind of negation ability. That could
Sure.
happen. So
Someone
yeah.
someone wrote in chat, GM Raffy said, the question is, does Victor become as hated as Counterspell in Magic the Gathering? And I'm like, I will die as I've lived. Yes. And I'm fine if when you play the Baron, other people are like, oh, I'm used to that reaction.
So to be super clear, Hyra, scheme-based
Yep.
would be something that uses the influence to enact schemes or stop people from enacting them.
Right.
Negation-based would be using influence as a payment to stop some other sort of plan or thing that a player is trying to do.
Right.
All right. That poll is now going. Ladies and gentlemen, weigh in, because we want to see what you guys think.
So far, we have not used influence for anything other than titles and schemes, but that doesn't mean we can't do it. Now, it is a little bit tricky to create a promo card that has a brand new unseen mechanic, because there's no rule book to go along with it to explain it. So if we are using influence weirdly, we're gonna have to be careful. But we'll see what we can do.
I mean, I like
those of
moving
you
into
wondering,
uncharted territory.
People who are wondering when this might come out, this is not going to be a card you're going to see next week or even next month, but we will ideally put it into the game in some form in the future.
Somebody made an interesting point that if it was this is GB Helfrich, sorry if I said your name wrong, if it was LA, it'd be scheme based, but since we're in San Francisco, he's there to meddle. That makes sense. That
does. Yep.
That's an interesting insight too.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, how similar, James Abraziel saying this is just an interesting discussion and process. How does this compare to your normal design process? Obviously, a lot less Twitch polls, I'm guessing, but how does that sort of work for you?
Yeah, typically, one designer, myself or Dan Blanchette, will sit down and come up with a suite of card ideas for the particular clan, and then place those where they seem appropriate with the correct cost and stats and disciplines. And so we don't typically have this kind of discussion at the very beginning. This is a lot of information about, we've got a lot of information about Victor to work with.
Yeah.
We're making up these characters, right? It may be possible to use some characters from the lore soon. As people may or may not know, that Renegade is going to be the new publisher of the Vampire the Masquerade books. So we'll have a little bit more access to those things. But talk like this will typically come about after the first or second playtest, just to make sure that everything is working in tandem and every character has a use for the team, things like that. So we tend to create the character, test it out, then have this kind of discussion, So we're not really building it from the ground up. We're saying, okay, well, if he's going to be double dominate, then we need to consider this and this and this, things like that. Okay.
Cool. Looks like our results are in. People are in favor of negation, 62%.
It's funny, when we scheduled this for 90 minutes, I was like, this won't take 90 minutes, and then we got 20 minutes left, and I'm like, oh no, there's so many things we haven't done
we're
yet.
getting there. We're 3/4 done. We're 3/4 done, but that was the easy stuff. Okay, so a negation-based ability. So I did like the idea, and I thought it was a good point that in LA, he would be enabling schemes, but in San Francisco, he's kind of meddling, right? So, okay, let me think here. And you said that, definitely schemes. Schemes is still a thing, and in fact, okay, let's talk about the negation now. Should that negation be more scheming political or combat, combat / positioning, we'll call it exhausting. We'll call that positioning. So should it be more to the using influence for what we typically think of influence, or using that negation influence to affect combat or exhausted, things like that?
I would love to see weaponized influence, because again, that's what
we might be doing that right now, depending on how the poll goes here. Yeah.
Hyra, you said combat, or what's the other?
Call it combat versus politics. Well, and combat, just for those listening, is going to include things like potentially exhausting a character, or negating a reaction card, something like that.
The poll is up,
Or
and I saw
yeah.
the Belmont. Belmont said, he likes where this is going, but he hopes it's not a huge silver bullet to a lot of characters. To be clear, this card will go through playtesting and very possibly other iterative design processes after this. The card that actually comes into the game may look a little bit different, just due to the fact that we don't want to have, we don't want to create a game-breaking card because we spent 90 minutes in a committee of people talking about it. Don't worry that if something comes up that this is just crazy, that we won't make changes. Obviously, we'd like to keep things as close to the community vision as possible, but we also don't want to break the game.
Like, joke's on you, silver bullet's exactly what I'm after.
So for those who are worried about silver bullets and overpowered stuff, we are able to put costs on things. Influence could be a cost, blood can be a cost, discard can be a cost, there's exhausting can be a cost. Dave, tell us a little bit about Victor, what he's willing to give up in order to enact his plans. Is he willing to give up blood? Is he willing to give up
I like this.
Give up cards, meaning options? Is he willing to, where does he go? How does he usually affect things?
He'd give up anything but influence. Anything
but influence. Okay, interesting. He would spend influence, but of course in our game, influence comes back at the start of your turn. So okay.
Nothing that would risk his station and his pull, basically.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so a blood cost doesn't typically hurt that. That's all good.
Yep.
Anime Skippy saying he won't be a silver bullet. He'll be a golden gun.
Thank you for coming with me on this, Anime Skippy. Thank you for coming with me on this. No, he'd definitely pay the blood cost. That's come up in the show before. Like he's offered his blood multiple times.
Okay.
When the situation was dire. So yeah, that's 100% he'd do that.
We've got our results, 64% in favor of a political sort of aspect.
Political. Okay. I had an idea here, and let me drop this to Dave first. So in the game of Rivals, we have these things called no influence tokens. And when a character has a no influence token on them, they have no influence, which is kind of negation. And currently the rules are when your character has influence and they spend it, you place a no influence token onto your own character. But what if you could put a no influence token on someone else's character as a hostile act to deny them their influence?
I think that'd be fantastic.
You like it?
That's kind of cool.
Okay. Yep. Let's think of something else though as well. How about this instead? So that's one option. Another option would be to some clans might have influence on all their characters, so shutting down one person wouldn't be that good. So why don't we do a poll? Should the political negation, you don't have to write it all down, just say one character, like dominate one character, or you got a point? Go for it.
I do. The fact mass manipulation is the thing he does. He hits everybody in the room. So if you're about to be like, should it be one person or multiple? I'm like multiple.
Okay.
That's what he does.
That's some hand on the scale. But here, let's put it to a poll. So should the political domination be versus one or versus many?
And so versus one would likely be like a no influence token.
Right. You would completely shut down one character or mass manipulation of multiple characters. So let's put that up to a poll here.
All right. I'm going to just do one character and many characters just because I can only type so many things, it turns out, or so many
just put
characters
one versus
in the text box.
Yeah, one versus many is all you need to. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. And Matt, let's talk about, the one is easy. What would a versus many sort of effect look like?
Yeah,
I think it's very good if you can just throw no influence markers like they're candy. So what's another sort of middle ground that we could look at?
Well, I think if it was one character, you would definitely be able to put a no influence token on them to totally reduce them. Many characters might be something where you reduce, you choose a foe and each of their characters have -1 influence for the turn, something like that. So, we'll see what people say. So far, it's Is everyone able to see the results prior?
They pop up. Yeah, I think they pop up on the screen for everybody.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
They can even see the timer showing how much time you have to get your options in. We have, in a little bit here, we will share the fully colored sketch of
What,
Victor
you've been
Temple.
holding out on this on us
Well,
this whole
I,
time?
I legit
Joyce
was
has
like, I
been
can't
very
wait.
busy this last 80 some minutes.
I
Oh,
legit
she's
was like,
been
I can't wait to
painting
see
it. She's
the
painting it live,
yeah,
right.
I can't wait to see the colored option somewhere down the road, and it's here, duh, or imminently.
Dave, we did get one of the artists and one of the designers said, like, is there a reason that this character we're drawing looks like, is it Jeffrey Wright, the actor? From
Right.
yeah, I said, well, yes, it's because they just kind of look more familiar they look more similar than I had thought.
Is he from Walking Dead or something?
No, he's
or-
from the
Westworld.
Oh,
Westworld.
yeah. I knew it was a W. I couldn't think of it.
So I got a laugh out of that when he was confused, wondering why we're doing art of him. I said, no, that is B. Dave Walters himself.
Yep.
Oh, come on.
Ooh,
Oh, wow.
y'all already know what I think.
Wow.
Y'all already know what I think.
You're getting to have your finger on the scale and like your tiebreaker here a lot because we keep tying.
It's a tie. What do you think?
Thank you, Stacey Abrams. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
hey,
Minnie.
I mean, come on. If a Ventru can't exert undue influence on a process, are they even Ventru?
Yeah.
So you're liking many characters?
Liking many, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Now, when you just picturing Victor, if he were at a table arguing with a bunch of Primogen, would he focus his negation on one particular clan to completely to ruin their influence, or would he kind of spread it to the whole room to kind of make enemies out of everyone?
Make them enemies with each other or enemies against him?
Against him, really. So is he completely selfish, or is he a little bit targeted in that mass manipulation? I mean, essentially,
Definitely.
in the game, would you want to affect all the players or just one player in the mass manipulation?
One. Because if you affect everybody at once, it would turn like the whole table against Clan Ventru. Oh,
Sure.
no, but it gives Clan Ventru a global benefit, though. No, if you like inhibit everyone and the Ventru get like a rising tide lifts the Clan of Kings, he'd do that. He'd do that.
Do we want to ask
everybody's
the players or the audience?
Yeah, we can do a poll. So let's
Do a
do
quick
the poll for one clan or targeted clan versus all foes clans, or just all foes.
Mhm.
Yeah, one clan versus all foes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to set
Do
this
it as
for
a
1 minute,
1
just
minute,
because
yeah, would be
we've
good.
got 11
We're short
minutes
on
to get
time.
all this done.
Yep.
So do not hesitate. Get your votes in.
The name of that ability is I said what I said.
Right. And just while people are voting, I'll just talk a little bit about what that could mean. So if you're reducing the influence of all foes, you're going to be able to play schemes on your turn and have very little resistance to it, which helps the Ventru, right? If it's versus one clan, you're going to be able to make sure that particular clan doesn't have as much say, but you're willing to hear what the other players say. You don't want to make an enemy about everyone. So we'll see what they say about that one.
It's a dramatic setback on one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One, and by person, I mean one player. So
one player,
you'll be
yes.
influencing all of their coterie, which will typically be somewhere between 2 and 4 or 5 characters,
Yeah, I definitely feel like Victor is more pro Ventru than anti Malkavian Toreador or Bruja. But yeah, no, I can see it going either way.
Okay.
Looks like it went to one clan. It's not incredibly, but hey, at least no tie this time.
You know what? It's
Okay.
late in the day. I'll go with the will of the people.
All right.
People have spoken.
So if it's one clan, that means it can affect all of one clan's characters. That's cool. You said that mass manipulation is your jam. So I think something like -1 influence for each character that target player controls in target player's coterie. right? Each of their characters has -1 influence, okay? Would you say that that would be that you would want that for Ventru scheming, or even schemes that happen on other players' turns? That might be a little more complicated, but it is possible to do that you could do it relentlessly.
That's the
do it during other
relentless
players'
mechanic,
turns.
right? Definitely relentless. Definitely is an interrupt. 100%. 100%.
Right. There's a bit of a time, there's some timing issues there that I have to ponder. I'm not, yeah.
So
Yeah,
when a scheme is initiated,
yeah, you would have to use it. When someone plays a scheme, they are typically, adding their influence immediately. It's the timing window there is a little tough, although you actually could do it. Actually could happen even after they vote. That's a little that's a little weird. It's a little mathy to do that, because it's like, okay, how many votes did you have and which characters did it? I guess you could track it by the no influence tokens. So you could say each character with a no influence token has -1 influence. That's not great wording right now, but essentially that would be it. So that whatever influence they put in, you take 1 out, right?
Yeah.
So let's see.
And would you have a cost associated with that for Victor? Would it just be exhausting, or be like exhaust and spend blood or something?
It might not be. Let's just let's see. So if you're going to choose a clan, there might be, yeah, you're choosing one. There could be a blood cost. I don't think it needs to be an exhaust. It's not super dominating, despite the 2 dominate he has. It's not, because it's not that big of a cost where you'd need to exhaust. It could be 1 blood. It might not even need to be that, because if you're only hitting, a lot of times a coterie,
only 2 maybe characters have any influence anyways.
It's oftentimes only 1 or 2 characters even have the influence to spend. And certainly seeing Victor out there, they might be loath to use more than 1 of their characters because they know it's going to get reduced anyway.
True.
So
yeah, they're not going to use one that is only 1 influence. They're going to use the one they've built up a lot of influence on.
Right. We could do this as an influence payment. We could do it as a discard. We could do it as a blood payment. I don't think he needs to exhaust. So maybe we can put that up for a poll. This might be our last poll.
Yeah.
What should it show? Should it be, because it's relentless, it does need to have, we don't want this as an ongoing, a static ability, because he has to choose a target. So poll should be discard, blood, or influence, I guess.
Discard, blood, or influence. Okay.
Yeah, essentially spending some of your own influence to make sure another player doesn't have as much. That doesn't actually make a ton of sense. Let's leave it at discard versus blood. I think that would be slightly better. Or
again, one thing he wouldn't give up is
actually
influence.
let's go discard, blood, or plus prestige. Those 3 things.
Poll is up with those 3 options.
And Dave, feel free to
come into the
in here while the poll is happening.
While people are voting, Desiree, can you show us the artist at work real quick?
Ooh.
Perfect.
Go for it.
Well, she draws very, very fast. Joyce is
very fast. She's
incredible.
Standing by. Okay, Joyce.
Witchcraft.
Now.
Let's see if the techno wizardry is going to work out.
Pretty cool. And I will point out the artist did this on an incredibly short timeline, which I was just blown away by.
Yep.
Oh, amazing.
Nope, that's fantastic. The funny thing is I just sent Desiree a message where I was like, "Ooh, if it could be possible to do a thing," and I'm not going to say the thing I said. This is perfect. I love it.
Now I want to know what the thing was. All right, our results are in. Blood cost is the clear winner. Only 1 person voting for prestige and 2 voting for discard.
I did not
Okay.
vote this time. Again, I left this one to the will of the
It's
people. But I
overwhelming
love
for
this.
blood cost. All right. So, do you have the ability to put in blood costs in the text box right now?
I think
So-
I would need to like just do a like blood in parentheses. I can't actually add the icon.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Go ahead and leave the word influence there because we might come back to it. He might get a little. So go ahead and drop down a line and write relentless. And then relentless comma pay 1 blood. Just put pay 1 B or whatever. There you go. Then a colon after that. Let's see. I guess the wording. Let's see. We'll get the players might be able to come up with better wording, but I'll say it. It would be something like. Let's see. Like
somebody I think had a good one a little bit above.
It's essentially It's essentially each character or reduce target coteries influence by 1 for each no influence token they control.
That was what somebody had said basically.
Just as an aside, I know we're almost finished here, but come back at 4:30. I'm going to be talking about storytelling in the world of darkness. I've run werewolf and mage and wraith and changeling in about 500 or 600 V5 sessions. So I will share with you all how it is that I do that at 4:30 right here in this same place. So come on back. We'll hang out. You can ask all your questions.
Is it for each no influence token they control?
Yeah. Because they control things that are on them. Okay, you can probably reduce the influence, get rid of that influence at the top so that it'll fit. Also, I've noticed that yeah. So by 1 instead of for 1, I guess. Yeah.
By 1, yep.
Yeah, and use a Arabic numeral 1 as well. So that'll help. Realize pay 1 blood, reduce target coder's influence by 1 for each no influence token they control. Okay.
Period or no?
Period at the end, yeah.
So likely that's going to be reducing it by 1 or 2, maybe 3 for some instances if you're really getting mileage out of it. But obviously your opponent's not going to they're not going to likely use a vampire with only 1 influence knowing that you're just going to take it away. Why bother? So 1 blood seems like a reasonable cost for swinging it by, usually 1 to 2 influence to you?
Yeah, I would actually say that, I don't know if I noticed this program, it's kind of making large gaps between the lines, but I think that he should actually have a little influence on his own in addition, which will make him an interesting character possibly for allowing other people to gain titles, which is something you'd said. You might want to put at the very top, I would say, oh, I like that. Put this at the top. So just write this character has 2 influence.
Hey,
I think that's
undisputed Baron of the Valley, y'all.
I think that would be a reasonable thing because there you go.
I was gonna say I like the idea of having some influence on him natively too.
Yeah, and put a period after influence. If you can make a tiny gap underneath that top line right before.
I can't just like this, but obviously we can massage this and have a designer make it look.
Yeah. Currently, the card has. Currently, there's not a ton of space for flavor text, but we'll throw it in there for now. So go ahead and throw in some small type, I guess. Might work.
Undisputed
Baron of the Valley. I think you're gonna have to get rid of. You're gonna have to
I want them to know who did this to them.
Get rid of the. Get rid of the. We don't need to be the Facebook. Yep. We'll just be Facebook.
Yep. They all know.
There you
There's
go.
only one.
Undisputed Baron of the Valley. And also the text should be in italics. Very important.
Perfect. Or that could just be his ability. That's the name of his ability is Undisputed Baron of the Valley.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I will change the italic thing at some point because my Photoshop skills are heavily weighted towards photography, not graphic design, as it turns out. But we will get a designer to make a pretty version of this to share with everyone very, very soon. There we go. It's nice and small. How's that look? I'm trying to figure out the
yeah.
But everybody watching, what do you think of that as an outcome? I think that's pretty cool. Pretty cool process to have everybody involved. And Dave, what do you think as Victor Temple himself?
I think that is a card befitting the Baron. I think it is great. I love the art. I love the ability. I love the flavor text. I love all of it. And thank you, Chad, for tuning in to help with all the polls and everything. I would say I'm sorry for the ones that I put my finger on the scale, but y'all know I'm not. But I did not vote in most of those. Yeah,
you had a legion of.
This is great.
A legion of bots, a bot farm that was steering it in your direction.
Yep.
I'm just saying the family know the Baron.
Yeah, we'll have to see about the. We might have to word this in a different way because the fact that it's relentless could lead to situations where it might be okay, but where it's harder for other people to actually gain titles, right? So we need to think about that. So this could change. We may want to make it a more static ability so that you can't, try to deny someone mid paying cost or something.
This definitely has the.
Is that not the essence? Is that not counterpoint? Is that not exactly what you want to do?
Well,
where they're like, I win, but you don't.
Right.
We definitely have the big disclaimer. Card is subject to play-testing and final approval. So while we appreciate everyone's help with this, it could change. But we are out of time, ladies and gentlemen. Hyra and Dave, thank you so much for joining us for this. Everybody watching, super appreciate your help and your input. There's a lot more going on at Renegade Con. Dave said it, he's got his own additional stream coming up. So if you haven't got enough Dave, and how could you, tune back in. But we've got more stuff right after this. We don't want to steal their time. So thank you so much for tuning in, everybody.